Hello, this is Mashit and Smash It, but you can call me Mash or Mash It for short. That's right, I'm back, baby. I had to go away for a while after I got attacked by man, but now it's finally time to count down the... Wait a minute. I'm counting down animated movies from the 40s already? But I only reviewed 6 of them. That can't be all of them. Ahem. Huh? Allow me to explain. What? Who are you? Why, I'm you. That is, the real-life you. I'm confused. It's simple. You are an avatar of yours truly, and your job is to basically say what I write on a script. But while you were gone, I figured I would continue watching these animated movies and review them through some vlogs. It was a good way to keep the series going and pull ahead of our rivals. You know, a certain cat and lizard. Pretty soon I decided that not every animated movie is going to make a very interesting scripted review, and while I continue to make quick reviews about all of them, you can do a full review of any that have enough material to work with. This way we can stay ahead of the game in this reviewing every animated movie business, while also having enough time in between to do countdown lists, cartoon series reviews, and a variety of other ideas I've been cooking up in the old noggin. So I know it's a slightly different direction than where we were going before, but I just felt it would be an effective way to sort of have our cake and eat it too. We can still put as much passion as we can into our passion project, while still spreading our boundaries a bit. So what do you say? Wait, so you mean I'm not real? Of course you're real. In a meta sort of way. Okay, I'm depressed now. Good. We need to get you in the mood for the top 5 worst animated movies of the 1940s. Oh man, I already looked at 2 stinkers in this decade. Even better. Just 3 more and you're all set. But how am I gonna know what crap you watched? Easy. I'll just transfer my memories to you. Oh, no, 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 no. Whoa. It worked. I'm all caught up now. You've watched some really interesting movies I've never even heard of before. That's the idea. But I also see some real crap. And some of it's from later decades. To be fair, there are a few in there from this decade. And the last one. And the one before that. Well, we'll get to those decades when we get to them. For now, let's rip apart the worst that the 40s have to offer. As with my last countdown list that I released a year ago, I'm only including movies that I was able to see and understand what the characters were saying. I tried watching a couple of these foreign movies that had no English translation or subtitles, and I got pretty lost. But regardless, I sum this decade up as unfortunate. I mean, aside from all the war stuff going on, the still young art of animated films was stumbling to keep itself up. It started out promisingly enough, with some fantastic films from Disney, but soon even they had to compromise their quality to keep their business afloat with a series of package films that are essentially just a bunch of shorts. Some of them are alright, or even pretty good, but there will also be a couple on this list. As for movies from other countries, there were some pretty good ones, but also a few more that will be on this list. So let's find out what they are. These are the top 5 worst animated movies of the 40s. Number 5. Saludos Amigos. Believe it or not, there was a time when Disney was just scraping by. So what were they to do? Well, as Bambi was released, Disney was commissioned by the Department of State to embark on a goodwill tour of South America. This was part of the Good Neighbor policy implemented by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This was also a way of creating ties with Latin America, as it was closing ties with Germany. The tour was also intended to lead to the creation of a film that was meant as sort of a love letter to South American culture. Disney basically just played along for the money and, well, kind of phoned this one in. You spend a lot of time with the animators studying the locations and their customs, which leads to the creation of the shorts that comprise the movie. While kind of insightful of the location's cultures, as well as an interesting glimpse into how these shorts are inspired and developed, it's still pretty boring to watch when you're expecting actual stories. The shorts, while okay, are basically just your typical Disney shorts. There's nothing cinematic about them, and there's an overall lack of energy as well. The only one that really has legitimate effort put into it is the last short, with a beautifully done musical number set to some amazing animation, as well as the introduction of the very likable Jose Carioca. But at the same time, this is probably also the worst segment, because beyond those really good aspects, nothing even really happens in this piece aside from Donald Duck and Jose dancing the samba. The ending actually feels like a cliffhanger into an actual plot, which is very tragic. Maybe if they instead made this entire movie Donald and Jose traveling around the locations featured in the shorts and learning their customs along the way, it would have been much better. But as it is, I really can't bring myself to hate this movie. Sure, it could have been better, but again, you get a glimpse into South American culture, as well as Disney's process of developing their animations. And it did help America establish better ties with the continent, so at least some good came out of it. For that, I really can't get mad at this film's existence. That said, as far as Disney movies go, this was pretty disappointing. Not terrible, but certainly not up to standard with what Disney made before, or what they would make in the years to come. If you want a better take on this movie, watch its sequel, The Three Caballeros. While no masterpiece either, there is still a lot more enjoyment to be had. For a love letter to South America, this movie went a little south. Number 4. Fun and fancy-free. Saludos Amigos, while pretty dull, at least had good intent behind it. So what's this movie's excuse? Yet another of Disney's package films. This one only has 2 segments. The first focuses on a bear named Bongo running away from the circus to live in the forest, and the second is a take on the classic Jack and the Beanstalk story starring Mickey Mouse. Now, I actually grew up with the latter segment, as I had a VHS of it as a kid, and while not great by any means, there's enjoyment to be had. Unfortunately, it's not good enough to carry the rest of the movie. While the other package films have sort of a central theme to each of them, music, literature, South American culture, etc., this one doesn't really have much of a theme other than being positive in the face of adversity. And while we're on that topic, let's talk about Jiminy Cricket's opening song. The message is basically be happy all the time, even when you're in an unhappy situation. As someone who was going through a very difficult period of my life when I first watched this, I can tell you firsthand, it didn't work. In fact, if anything, it made me feel worse. Right out the gate, this movie made me depressed. And then we get a segment of Jiminy sneaking into someone's house, as he usually does, and then talking to inanimate toys. But the toys do change expression, so maybe they are alive? I don't know. The problem is, there's nothing interesting or compelling that comes out of this. Jiminy is a shell of the character we saw in Pinocchio, having gone from an entertaining side character who's compassionate, with overall hints of an attitude, to just a safe, harmless, friendly host for the kiddies, and not even challenging like Mr. Rogers. The Bongo segment is okay, but otherwise is just another generic Disney short. The only thing that stands out is Dinah Shore narrating and singing. Oh yeah, and there's a song about expressing your love by slapping your partner. Granted, it's supposed to be a mating practice of bears, which might be based on real life. I don't know, I'm no bear expert. But still, the song can give some mixed messages to the human audience. Though if you think that's uncomfortable, how about the segment leading into Mickey and the Beanstalk? Picture this, a little girl alone with a middle-aged man entertaining her with his ventriloquist dummies. Now, if you think this scene looks completely wrong, you are right. Also, this.
You know, Ophelia, you look so sweet.
What'd you say?
I say, I think you look so sweet.
Yes.
I'm going to kiss you goodnight.
Oh, help, 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 help.
I literally have nothing to say. Now granted, this is well before stranger danger became a thing, which makes it all the more uncomfortable by modern standards. Honestly, this is a fine example where the main problems with the movie lie not in the segments themselves, but in the overall framing device. That said, the only thing really keeping me from ranking this movie higher in the list is Mickey and the Beanstalk, and that's mostly out of nostalgia. And even then, there are other versions of the cartoon that you can watch without all of the other stuff in this movie dragging it down. In the pre-mentioned video I grew up with, they replaced that creepy ventriloquist with Ludwig von Drake and a cute little bug named Herman. Though having grown up with this version, I had no idea why Drake gets a castle mixed up with a red barn.
And way up high on the hill overlooking the valley, there stood a big red barn. No, what am I saying? I mean, there was a big castle.
And high on a hilltop overlooking the valley, shining like a jewel, stands my red barn. No, it was something much nicer. It was a majestic castle.
Oh, that's pretty.
Shame I had to see this movie to make sense of anything. Also, we have this moment.
Oh!
Growing up, the question of who made that "oh" sound stumped me for years. Was it the harp lady? Didn't sound like her. Was it Minnie Mouse? Well, she's not in this cartoon, so that makes no sense. Finally, after seeing this movie, I know it's the little girl that creepy puppet guy is telling the story to. Why did they leave that in? Couldn't they have taken it out for the re-releases of the short? Whatever, I'm getting off topic. Fun and Fancy Free is neither fun, fancy, nor free. It is dull, plain, and leaves you feeling like a prisoner. Unless you want the bragging rights of having seen all of Disney's animated canon films, it's best you stay away from this one. You'll be happier that way. Number 3. Momotaros Divine Sea Warriors. You ready for some World War II propaganda? Well, too bad, you're getting it anyway. This is a weird one. So much of the movie is spent showing off how awesome the Japanese army is, even though in this movie they're portrayed as a bunch of childlike animals led by some samurai kid. There's not even much of a conflict. It just shows how chill and lovely the military is. You know, never mind all the backbreaking training and the fear of going into battle and potentially losing your life or watching other people lose theirs. Nope, it's mostly just a good, relaxing time. And when they finally do go into battle, of course they're so awesome that the British Army doesn't stand a chance. In fact, as the ending will show you, the British are actually a bunch of spineless cowards. No, I mean they're literally spineless, as they move around like noodles and talk like they're on some kind of illegal substance.
Well, I was saying it's because I have no command over all troops. So I think it impossible to agree to a complete unconditional surrender.
では、鬼ヶ島の指揮権は誰が持つのか?
That's under the authority of the governor. I have a bit of authority over some of the troops.
The animation is also very inconsistent. One moment it looks pretty, and the next, oh god! Please get that off the screen! Get it off the screen! You think that's creepy, how about these baby birds? In the world is being drained from my soul. Also, good luck getting the Japanese alphabet out of your head after watching this. This is a bizarre movie, but honestly, there might be some laughs to be had. If you're up for a little propaganda in the guise of a cutesy anime movie, then feel free to check this one out. But as a movie on its own, it's a disaster comparable to Hiroshima. What, still too soon? Number 2. Mr. Bug Goes to Town. Well, I've already done an entire video reviewing this waste of thought. If you want a more thorough look at what didn't work, I would recommend said video. But for those who haven't seen it, here's a basic rundown. It is a bland movie with bland characters, bland musical numbers, and a bland story that actually becomes too over the top by the end. Not much else to say. It's just bland, but also unrewarding. There is little to no satisfaction with the resolution, and the adventure leading to it just lacks any kind of excitement or charm that helps it stand out. It is trite through and through. You want a more satisfying Fleischer movie? Watch Gulliver's Travels. You want a more satisfying movie starring insects? Watch Ants or A Bug's Life. Hell, even B-Movie has more inspiration. At least people can laugh about its existence through all of the meme videos made about it that I will admit to taking part in.
Pollen.
But there is nothing funny about this movie's existence, and for a film that's intended as a comedy from an animation studio that focuses on comedy, that's pretty freaking sad. I guess you can say this movie is in the weeds. The G-Weeds. G-Weeds! Shut up! And the number 1 worst animated movie of the 1940s is Princess Iron Fan. Really, what else could it have been? Not only is the quality of this movie subpar with some of the ugliest animation I've ever seen, but it seems to just go out of its way to strain my eyes and ears with a shaky picture and spastic movements that can induce motion sickness, and screechy audio and grating voice acting that can make your ears bleed. I bet if movies could access the other 3 senses, this one would feel like fire, huge gusts of wind, and rubble smacking against you, smell like a sweaty monkey, and taste like pig feces. I respect the early effort by the Wan brothers and China in general. I know this is a difficult art form to create, but they should have given themselves time to develop before dropping this turd on the public. I'm glad it inspired much better Eastern cartoonists, but it still sucks. If you want to watch a movie adaptation of Journey to the West, there are numerous choices that, while not necessarily fantastic, are far better than this. Hell, I just recently watched 2 way superior adaptations of the story from the 60s, and one of them is from the same guys who did this one, so I guess it goes to show that anyone can improve. Really, the only reason to watch this movie is for bragging rights. Not just for seeing a movie that very few people even know about, but also for having sat through it without gouging out your eyes and eardrums. Stay away from this monkey turd. And those are my worst animated movies of the 40s. But as bad as they are, I know that they will only get worse as we progress through the decades. But at the same time, the good animated movies only get better. So on that positive note, join me next time as I start looking at the best of this decade, and see how they compare to the films I covered from the pre-40s. That being said, there will be a bit of a twist this time. I'll tell you why in my next video. Until then, this is Mash It and Smash It, signing off. Remember, Mash It. When you review Johnny the Giant Killer, try not to die of laughter.
Oh, help, 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 help.